Hi everyone. Here are the top 7 states to visit in the United States as a tourist, in no particular order. The first one is California. California is a very big state. It's in the west, bordering the Pacific Ocean. There are two distinct areas, Northern California and Southern California. In Northern California, San Francisco is a world renowned city that has a lot of different sites. There's Golden Gate Bridge, there's Alcatraz, and many other areas of interest and points of interest like museums. There's Golden Gate Park. There's different other types of cultural attractions there as well. There's Chinatown and so on. So San Francisco by itself is a major tourist spot in California. Also, very close to San Francisco is Napa Valley, which is one of the major wine producing regions in the United States. Also, Lake Tahoe in California is very famous for local people. It's basically a lake that has a lot of different resorts around it, winter resorts. There's a lot of great skiing opportunities there. The Olympics back in 1960 were there, so it's really world class skiing and snowboarding there. Also, there's Yosemite National Park in the east. And of course, down south is Los Angeles and Hollywood. And LA also has a lot of different attractions, a lot of interesting museums, but there's a lot of, beach life. A lot of people like to go to the beach. So there's Santa Monica, Venice Beach, and the South Bay communities in LA are very nice too. You can bike all the way from the South Bay in LA to up to Santa Monica. I highly recommend it. It's a very nice bike ride on the boardwalk there. And of course, further down south is San Diego. San Diego, in my opinion, has the best climate in the US. It's very pleasant, it's not too hot, it's just very surreal. I mean, it's like ideal climate. And they also have a lot of museums there. They have a very nice downtown area with a big park where a lot of the museums are. And they have a lot of different types of ship exhibits because the Navy is there. So it's very interesting to see all these things that are not common in some other US cities. So, number two, Hawaii. I've only been to Oahu, but from what I've heard, it's not really the best part of Hawaii, but I really liked it. And other people have been to other parts of Hawaii and they highly recommend it. So, the reason why I want to mention Hawaii in this list is that the weather there is very tropical, very, um, you know, um, interesting compared to different than other parts of the U.S. because it's a chain of islands, so it's really there's nothing else really like that in the U.S. So it's very you feel like really like a tourist there. I mean, it's you basically feel like on vacation, because it's the weather is very nice. There's very nice beaches there. People are surfing, and the culture there is just so laid back, and so tropical that you cannot really experience anything like that in the U.S. So it's ideal for tourists. Number three is New York State. Of course, New York City is famous all over the world. It's a great city to visit. There's a lot of attractions there. Starting with all the skyscrapers and the Empire State Building, There's a lot of museums also there. There's a lot of great world-class art there, and art galleries and things like that. There's Central Park, all the bridges, and really the New York culture. It's really the most diverse area in the U.S. You can hardly hear English there on the streets. I mean, it's really, really diverse. And also up north in that state, you also have Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is world famous. It's probably one of the most well-known attractions in the US worldwide, so I highly recommend you visit it. It's very impressive. Moving on to Florida. In Florida, of course, there's Disney World, an extremely popular park. I highly recommend it. It's very big. You need a few days, if not at least a week, to actually explore it all because it's so big. But there are also a lot of other very popular areas of interest in Florida. Miami and Miami Beach are very nice areas. Miami Beach itself is really impressive. It's kind of upscale, and the beach is very nice, and it's very exotic, very diverse. And further down south is Key West, which is a very nice area in Florida. And actually, Tampa, from what I've heard, is very nice too. A lot of people recommend that too. Moving on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania really has several very distinct areas, and I enjoyed really all of them. I felt at home in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a very distinct, very interesting city. A lot of history there. I believe Philadelphia was the capital of the U.S. at one point in the history of the country. There's a lot of historic sites there and a lot of history. The Liberty Bell that was used to declare the independence of the U.S. is located there, and there's a lot of Benjamin Franklin, a very famous American kind of legacy there because he was from there. And really, the people are very nice. It's a big city, so it feels kind of cosmopolitan. So I highly recommend it. Up north is Lehigh Valley. It's a very picturesque area where I recommend you to visit it in the fall because the leaves of the trees and everything start changing color. So it's very, very beautiful. In the west of the country, you have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a great city. It's very friendly, and it's a medium-sized city. It's about 350,000 people, but so it's kind of not too big, not too small. So it's kind of ideal size to visit as a tourist and really experience America. A lot of history there too. Andrew Carnegie left a big mark in the city. He built some libraries and some other institutions there, and you can really see that city was developed with a lot of money and a lot of very impressive sites. There's really nice parks, and the universities and everything is just amazing. And in Pennsylvania, there are several Amish communities. The Amish communities are, people from German descent that live traditional life. So if you haven't experienced that, check them out. I highly recommend that. They don't usually respond to tourists, but you can observe their way of life, and it's a very interesting experience because you cannot find that in most states. Excuse me. I also recommend neighboring New Jersey. New Jersey is very developed and industrial up north, but if you start exploring the coast, it's very kind of holiday-like. There's a lot of beaches and nice communities. You know, a lot of small shops and boardwalks and things like that. So people, they're friendly, and the weather is nicer than other parts of the state, I thought. And one point of interest is Atlantic City. Atlantic City is the Las Vegas of the East Coast. It's the biggest casino city on the East Coast, and it's very impressive, and it kind of has a holiday atmosphere, and there's a lot of tourists visiting it. And also, there's a few kind of beach communities there, holiday communities like Ocean City and a few other places that are kind of resorts that you can visit as well. So I enjoyed all of them, and I'm sure you will too. And the last area I wanted to discuss was DC, District of Columbia. It's not really a state, you know, it's the capital, Washington, DC, but it's actually, maybe some people don't know that, but it's actually a big tourist destination in terms of so many different points of interest there. The biggest library in the US is there, Library of Congress. There's a ton of museums. People there value their history. You know, there's a lot of history there. So it's more history, kind of more of a historic place than most other parts of the US. And it has very wide boulevards, and it feels like a big city. You know, you don't feel like that in a lot of places in the US. It really feels like a well developed, you know, big city, very beautiful. So I highly recommend you to visit it as well. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye.